There's 13 different projects that are throughout the state of New Jersey that are fossil fuel, and it's all fracked gas, related. And it's a variety of projects. It's compressor stations, which will help increase the volume of gas that they're able to transmit through pipelines. Some of it is new pipelines, and there's 4 natural gas proposed power plants. So a couple of years ago, we've seen these projects be proposed, and there's a process that they all have to go through in order to get approved. And so some of them have been on the table for a couple of years. But through Clean Water Action, other organizations, every time a new project was introduced, we get the residents at our arms. Hey, there's a new project that they're proposing. It's a pipeline that's going to go through our neighborhood. It's going to be bringing in frack gas from Pennsylvania. But there's no corner of the state. We penciled it out on a little map and said, there's projects everywhere. They're down in the Pinelands. They're in the Meadowlands. There's this pipeline, the Pilgrim Pipeline, is going to follow the Route 287 corridor. There's right now oil trains coming in from Albany. That's going over the Oradell Reservoir in Bergen County. And there's no place that's not, this place is west, near the Delaware River. But there's no corner of the state that didn't have a project. And the problem is the same with all of them. The amount of CO2 from one individual project or another is going to contribute to climate change. And when you look at these 13 projects that are currently in process all together, it would have a significant impact on climate. So what we're pushing for is Clean Water Action is working with a number of other groups that the leaders is Clean Water Action, Delaware River Keeper Network, Food and Water Watch, Sierra Club, Environment New Jersey is sort of the big professional environmental organizations that have different advocacy arms and strengths. So that group came together and said, what are we going to do about all this? There's about 80 different groups throughout New Jersey that it's garden clubs, environmental groups, activist organizations like Ridgebridge Jolt, that agree with us that these projects moving forward, we're not going to get to 100% clean energy if we move forward with all these bad power plants. So what we need right now, what we're calling for, is a moratorium on all new fossil fuel projects throughout the state. Right now, the game plan that we have is the Chris Christie rulebook, I'd say. These are the rules and regulations that we will approve projects with. The governor is currently working, their office is working on an energy master plan. They said, all right, the energy master plan is going to be our roadmap to get to 100% renewable by 2050. We're working on the roadmap right now. We started this campaign back in November, and since November, 3 or 4 projects are already starting to move forward. They've got shovels in the ground. They're building the pipelines. So while we're waiting for the rule book and the guidelines to get to 100% renewable energy, projects are actually moving forward now. And as of right now, we're still working on the rule book, but we don't have it yet. So we need an emergency moratorium to put a hold on these projects. Let me see the next slide. These and projects that they build now, they're not going to run them for 10 years. Harry was talking. It's urgent. It's a climate crisis. The window is closing very quickly. 11 years is not a lot of time. So any fossil fuel projects that they build today, they get the money back. They need to run them for 30, 40 years. Is the expected lifetime of these projects. So we need to set rules in place. During the moratorium. So again, it's the cumulative impact, looking at all these projects together, it just blows our climate projections out of the water. And in New Jersey, strategic importance, this is the next one. Okay, so all these fossil fuel projects are bad. Climate change is very urgent. The health impacts, when we talk about, Harriet talked a little bit about it disproportionately impacts certain communities. Children who are developing, so high heat days, the ozone pollution from these power plants that would be placed here locally. There's the methane releases. Methane is a worse greenhouse gas capture. It captures more heat than CO2. So it would disproportionately impact children, elderly. It would also, communities of color and low-income communities. Climate change is not fair. In Montclair, where I live, people are going to turn off the air conditioner. They're not going to notice, a high heat day as much as someone that's already in an urban center. It's already, on average, her urban heat effect is going to be a higher temperature. Heat actually kills people. When the floodwaters come, there's some families that they don't have the resources to move to higher ground. So just the folks that are going to be most vulnerable are going to have, the least ability to change. And ozone, it's heart disease, lung, asthma, I mean, it kills people. So it's also, we have tremendous opportunity here. So we heard about all the negatives of climate change, and New Jersey, it's not like we're fracking for fuel here. It's not like we're digging it out of the ground. So we have all the negatives. We have the floodwaters, the health impacts, higher heat days. We're a coastal state. New Jersey makes a lot of money off the Jersey Shore, and when it gets wiped out to sea, we're losing a lot of economic value and impact when we hit big storms, which are projected with climate change. But we have an awesome opportunity for alternatives. New Jersey has the coastline, and we have a tremendous opportunity for having offshore wind. And so why not switch? Right now, today, there are 5 times as many paychecks getting cashed in a green energy economy than there are in a fossil fuel industry. So Harry, did you have more you wanted to add?
Yeah, no, and I just want to second what Eric said. Governor Christie inherited a legacy from Governor Murphy inherited a legacy from Governor Christie. He inherited an energy master plan based on pipelines, based on fossil fuels. And so it's hard to untangle that. But calling for a moratorium and a step out to say, let's look at this, really, because those pipelines that are being built, the Meadowlands power plant that we're trying to fight here, they are not for New Jersey. We're a pass-through state on all of these projects.
Right.
So we are a pass-through state. We should not be a pass-through state. We live in this state. Our children live in this state. We don't deserve the pollution legacy that comes with all of these projects. So while it is, it's a real big ask. We need to ask those that can go big to go big, because this is the biggest challenge of our lifetime that we will face. So while it may seem, how can he do this? He inherited this mess. He can move forward on the wind projects and what he's doing, and he needs us to ask him. So that is our job as citizens. That is our job as his constituents, as his supporters. If we're I imagine many people in this room are his supporters, and they need us to do that. We organized an event last week at the United Nations for parents or parent organizations globally that are coming together. Christine was there, and we had the benefit of some different people speaking. One was a congresswoman from Philadelphia, Donna Bullock, and she said 3.5 years ago, she was not a climate champion. Climate change was not on her radar. It was not something she was raised to think about, to work on, and because citizens came to her constituents, moms, dads, parents, talking about the health impacts, talking about issues related to fossil fuel infrastructure projects. Fracking is a huge problem in Pennsylvania. People came to her and explained it to her. She was speaking at the United Nations on a forum as a climate champion 3.5 years ago, and she, you can listen to her. I'll share it with Kathy if you want to watch the video of it. That wasn't her 3.5 years ago. She's doing it for her young children who she brought there, for our children, and because it's the right thing to do, and economically it makes sense to do. So there's every reason to do it, but it's not the easy route. And so she said, I need you to talk to me, to help me understand. You got me there, keep me going. And so the same thing I think we have to say to Governor Murphy, to our state senators and Congress people, to our congressman who has heard it but needs to hear it again and again, who has 2 little kids. This is something we can do. So.
Yeah, and if I could just, sorry, Eric, just go on about what she said about Governor Murphy inheriting this tangled mess. And so he, there's no fracking allowed in New Jersey, right? So,
there's no rules against it.
There's not yet?
No.
Okay, well, I know that there isn't. Well, what's going on? Well, I thought.
We just don't have the shale deposits, so it doesn't make sense economically currently, although when we have shale deposits, they're too deep down to get out. So we did have a 1-year moratorium,
yes,
but that was a long time ago under Christie. We are trying to get a fracking waste moratorium, fracking waste bill ban in New Jersey, and we want Governor Murphy to pass that fracking waste ban. But we won't see fracking probably in New Jersey just because economically it doesn't make sense, but it could happen.
Okay, so I had thought that, because I know that the government did campaign saying there would be no fracking in New Jersey, and that he wouldn't, well, I can't just not allow it, but that he would, support no fracking in New Jersey, so. Right, so we have no fracking projects, but we do have projects that enable fracking elsewhere, so we don't make the money from fracking, and we're gonna carry the pollution. Here's the thing though, honestly, yes, call the governor, and reach out to him, but understand something. He's having a really hard time right now because there are people out to get him.
Yes.
And the unions are the ones who want these jobs, right? So so what they would ultimately like to do, the administration would actually like to have clean jobs, clean energy jobs, and retrain people for these clean energy jobs. And the unions are resistant to that because it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, right? So there's going to be two parts here. You reach out to the governor, you support him every which way you can to build up his strength and his power elsewhere, and then you keep saying, we can't have this fracking. This can't be. This is inconsistent with what you believe, this is inconsistent with what we elected you for, so we can't have that, but we need to empower him everywhere else.
And the same way we meet with, we should be meeting with members of the union who are, our friends and our neighbors
Yes.
too, and helping people understand, I'm from Alberta, Canada. Kathy said I'm from Canada. Well, yesterday we had elections in Alberta. And we elected the Donald Trump of the North in Alberta. Alberta is the Texas of Canada. It's the heart of the oil sands, the tar sands. The person who got elected premier, which is equivalent to the governor, ran on, I will bring back coal. I will speak for the oil and gas industries. In fact, he set up a war chest. That was part of his campaign. Was to set up a war chest to get the truth out about what the oil and gas companies are doing for our environment. This is, so those bastions of that kind of politics and that kind of, we won't let go because, and I'm from Alberta, and I have so many friends and family members that work in the oil and gas industry because we're all connected to that too, and that happens in this country too. You want to put food on the table, but we need to retrain and put money behind retraining. And I think I'm looking where the green jobs are, and there will be people that will lose out, but we can't hold on. And it's not gonna, it's a moment in time in Alberta that will continue for a while, like it does elsewhere. But we are moving forward in a positive way, and we need to ask our champions to be champions and to support them, but ask them to do a lot too, I think.
Sorry, Eric.
No, that's okay. And so the next thing, and part of it is, the one thing I really like about this Empower NJ and the coalition, it's a broad spectrum of people. Again, it's not just the environmentalists, it's not just the tree huggers. I mean, it's mom groups, it's civic organizations. I mean, we're all in this together. And where we found that activists are very local and active in their own certain battles, strength in numbers. When we all come together, gives us that chance to be successful in these campaigns. So, our local project that's happening here, is, we talk a lot about stopping the Meadowlands power plant, and that one seems like it's the best of a worst case ideas. I mean, this is a natural gas plant that's going to be built in the bottom of a bowl in the Meadowlands, so all the ozone emissions and other particulates, they have nowhere to go except they get trapped in the valley there. The energy that they want to use for this, it's all going to New York, so it doesn't even benefit New Jersey people, and the frack gas and everything else that goes along with the dangers and negatives of fracking. So, so we're certainly opposed to that plant, and that's the one that's locally here. And part of this Empower NJ is, we want to stir up folks. We want people here to fight this Meadowlands power plant, but we also want to bring all the pipeline activists from the Pilgrim pipeline or the Pinelands pipeline. I mean, we're opposed to all of them. So let's fight the Meadowlands power plant altogether. When they need some help on their Pilgrim pipeline or the Pinelands pipeline, we should be calling and supporting, for their campaign, because we don't want these fossil fuel projects anywhere. So I did bring some action materials, and I think some folks got some on the way in. If not, I'll start here and you can pass it around. But on the Meadowlands power plant, locally, we can write letters to the Bergen County freeholders. There's 70 towns in Bergen County, 50 have already done a local resolution. Bridgewood has done that already, opposing this power plant locally. So you can take one and pass them if you didn't get them on the way out the door. So local townships have already done a resolution saying this is a bad idea, we shouldn't have this, please don't do this project. The Bergen County freeholders haven't gotten there yet. So writing letters, urging them and supporting them and telling them, hey, we're opposed to this plant, 50 towns have already done it. Let them hear your voice as voters and constituents on the freeholder level, urging them to do a resolution opposing this power plant.
That, by the way, is Tracy Zur. We've all met her and stuff. She's a freeholder. Reach out to her. Jermaine Ortiz. These are all people that are good and we like, but they're not stepping up with this one.
And
Mary?
What's your excuse for,
Why don't we let him finish and take that first? Unless he wants that.
It's okay, what's the question?
why are the freeholders opposing this as union jobs? Union money.
Well, they're just slow to move forward on it. And, you know, this power plant is less than a mile from another power plant that currently is the biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions in the state of New Jersey. The local communities have come together so strongly. You know, we were at a meeting with 300 people from Ridgefield that on the 19th of May, the high school, there's probably 4 or 5 high schools. The kids are 3/4 of a mile from there. All that pollution from that power plant is going to rain down on their high school. They are going to march from the high school, so they are also leading the way. And there's so much opposition to it, but there's a lot of politics at play. Yeah.
So, just to add to it, when this group goes to talk to your freeholders, the Bergen County freeholders, what happens is the unions send 300 members. And so they're there with maybe 50 people, and there's 300 union members talking. And the freeholders are scared, because that's their money source. So we need to be at freeholder meetings. It's not enough to freeholder meetings. As a matter of fact, there's one tonight. They're out there.
So Peggy's going to share that with us, and we're going to, and Peggy, by the way, worked on the coalition against the Pilgrim Pipeline.
I got that stuff. So
We're waiting, right?
Yeah, it's in dormant, right?
it's done.
Christina?
Hey, so as somebody newly running for office, I can tell you that opposing the unions is scary as somebody who's a candidate for office or an incumbent. They are very powerful. They come with money with their endorsement, and it's frightening to oppose them. However, that's where we can come in and give them the talking points and let them know that there are union jobs to be had in the transition to clean energy. The Solutions Project, which is run by Stanford, estimates that if we move to clean energy, we're looking at 86,000 construction jobs, 58,000 operations jobs, and those are on a 40-year scale. Those are career-length, well-paying, good healthcare jobs. And further to that point, Ørsted, which is one of the world's largest wind suppliers, has opened an office in Atlantic City and just put out a call to hire their first 1,000 people. And they've reached out to 3 South Jersey unions to get those jobs. So the jobs are coming. The jobs are coming. They can't come quickly enough, perhaps, but they're coming. And so what we can do as a state is move toward that just transition, move toward creating those educational programs if we need to, move toward funding in order to get us to that place where we don't need these power plants and we're taking care of these workers, and yet we're moving forward with clean energy and with a better future and fighting sea level rise and fighting, you know, the onsets of ticks and mosquitoes and everything that comes with climate change by doing good and doing well.
So donate to Christine Clark. We're going to put that